Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, that is Tim. We talk about horror movies on this show, and in this episode we are going to be discussing the winner of last month's Patreon vote. Every month our Patreons at patreon.com/mailedfuzztv get to vote on one of the films that we do. We get a choice of 4, usually there's a theme. The theme for this one was car-related movies, and funnily enough, they voted for the one that we knew the least about, and that was the Hearse.
Mm-hmm.
So we're here to talk about this. We'll start spoiler free, as we always do. We'll warn you in the middle before we go to spoilers. And yeah, so here we go. Yes. So there was a Hearse in it. I can confirm such a detail.
Oh, thank God. I hate false titles.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I mean, I'm a little concerned that you feel relieved, Tim, because you should have watched it. I mean, typically before we record, you go and you watch the movie.
Ooh.
Just wing it. It's fine. Just
okay,
wing it.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Maybe there's something I forgot to do.
So what is the Hearse? It is a movie about a middle-aged woman named Jane who lives in the city. We find out that she recently had like a bad marriage that ended, and she's going to spend the summer in her old aunt's house. Her aunt passed away, and she left the house to her. So she goes, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to go to this town and spend the summer there," because she's a teacher, right? And she's going to spend the summer there, and as soon as she gets there, this mysterious hearse starts following her around, and creepy things start happening. But more notably, I think, in terms of plot, everyone in the town seems to hate the fact that she's there and treat her like she's some sort of leper. It's very, very interesting, and obviously, the whole point is it's very mysterious. Okay, why do they hate her? Why do they hate that she's there in that house, and so on and so on. And for some reason, everyone in the town, even people who are in a completely different age group, seem to be infatuated with this city woman who is now in town and try their damnedest to seduce her, I guess we'll say. But that's the gist of the Hearse. Tim, I always ask the question.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy the Hearse?
Oh boy. No, no, I did not. Can you guess why I didn't like this movie?
I think there might be a few reasons, but
what do you think would be the biggest complaint about it?
That the Hearse itself is not really that important.
Well, there's that, but just honestly, man, this movie was so boring. I thought it was dull as hell.
Oh no, it's really dull. I felt like there was going to be something more specific and unique to the movie as opposed to just it's boring.
No, this was a kind of a slog to get through, and it was only about 100 minutes, which it's 90 minutes is usually even a bad movie can put up with it for 90 minutes. But I feel like anything over that is just oh boy. And there was some okay stuff in it, the idea of the hearse itself I thought was interesting, and some of the plot points I was like, okay, that's not bad. But honestly though, just everything about it is boring. It's just so tedious. Even the characters are boring. The idea of this woman being in this town and just immediately being ostracized, okay, you can do something with that, but even that, it's just the blandest, most boring way to do that. And the main character herself, there's nothing interesting about her. Even all this crazy stuff that's going on, she just kind of has this attitude of oh well, nothing's gonna get me down. Oh, they can't kick me out of this town, that's for sure. I'm you have no emotional resonance. You're not reacting to anything at all. It's really frustrating.
Yeah, she doesn't really get very emotive until the last 20-30 minutes when it really gets threatening.
Can you honestly say you have a good grasp of what this character is? She just feels like such a blank slate to me. I don't know. The most I think the most you learn about her is literally in the first 2 minutes, where her friend is just so yeah, I know things have been tough with you because you just got divorced, and then what did they say, you just got divorced and your aunt just died or something like that, and it's oh, okay, exposition. Yeah, there you are. And then you learn nothing else about her though.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. Exposition has reared his ugly head again. So no, I kind of agree. Here's the thing though, I wouldn't actually call it bad. I would call it really, really mediocre.
Yeah, that's fair.
I feel like it never like dips into like this is terrible or anything like that. It's kind of got this thing where
Mhm.
they're taking it a lot, like the filmmakers are taking it a little bit too seriously, and it's a little, it's like they think they're making this great movie, but it's kind of relying on a lot of very like similar tropes that I've seen, in a bunch of other
Yeah.
films. It's the the sheriff's like, oh, you're a city girl, you're crazy, you're all hysterical. Stop, you're telling me someone's broke into your house, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to listen to you because you just seem like a crazy city woman. So I'm not going to
That
investigate it, even though I'm the sheriff. Like, just
yeah.
things like that, and
That scene was actually pretty funny. Just the sheer amount of times he said "city woman."
oh yeah, yeah. Uh, my big thing, I think, to be honest, is that it's called the Hearse. The posters,
Right.
the Hearse there, and
Mhm.
even though the Hearse does feature in it, it wasn't really like it wasn't really about the Hearse. The Hearse didn't even seem that important in the grand scheme of things. It was really
No,
just
not at all.
it's more of like a haunted house movie,
Oh
kinda.
yeah.
I mean, it's not even that really. It's more of a something else. I'd have to spoil it to really
Mhm.
say what it is, but it just feels like a sort of creepy like movie where something's going on, there's some spooky things happening,
Mhm.
and then some of those spooky things involve the Hearse like chasing her outside or
Mhm.
showing up outside the house, but ultimately it's not really that important to what's going on in the story.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I
So,
think, yeah, I mean, I think you kind of nail it on the head a little bit there. It does feel like they were going for something more serious, more dramatic, maybe even like kind of like gothic in tone or something like, I don't know if it came out before, but maybe they're trying to do like something like Changeling-esque or something like that.
it's
But
funny you say that because that was the same year, and the actress who plays Jane was in that movie.
oh, really? Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
remember that. But yeah, ultimately though, and it kind of hurts it because it just makes it, just a lot more tepid. Where if you did go over the top with it, and it's like, made the hearse like this big crazy thing that's like mowing people down, and there's like a big body count and stuff, and everyone's over the top. Like, okay, like maybe not a good movie, but it could have been a lot more fun.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping for bad fun. Instead, I
Yeah.
got mediocre boring. Because it's taking itself very seriously. The music's very gothic. It's just it's trying to do this thing because I think what it was going for was the idea of her repressing because she starts reading her aunt's journal and it reveals a lot about her aunt that she was into the occult and she had this new boyfriend she left her reverend husband or fiance for and they were into Satanism and all the rest of it and it's talking about how she was infatuated by like the this new guy who showed up out of nowhere and then she meets a guy who shows up out of nowhere and I'm like okay so it's going to parallel what happened to her aunt. That doesn't necessarily mean this guy's involved in anything, but clearly we're going to like play these beats to either like tease that something's going to happen, or it'll be a red herring, and it'll be something else. But it just the whole thing feels like it's going through the motions. Like I got to the point where we're about 20 minutes from the end, and I was like, shit, we only have 20 minutes left. I feel like the plot's barely started. Like we've not really
Yeah.
delved past kind of the main beats that I feel like we've already begun to establish. I don't know.
Mhm.
It's a very bland movie. I thought.
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely like a couple of times when I check the time and then like even when you look at it and like sometimes when you're struggling with a movie and you're like, all right, I only got 20 minutes left, like 20 minutes, that's nothing, I can do this. You psych yourself up like 20 minutes, I'm just gonna like stare at it and pay attention and really focus, and it'll go by like that, and then like you try to do that as long as you can, and then you check the time again and you're like 17 minutes left, god damn it. So
There's nothing like crushing like criticism of a movie where we're talking about how we kept checking the time and we were annoyed that there was only still X amount left. It wasn't as little as we were hoping for.
and it's just everything is just like it's kind of like the same beat over again. Like there was one pretty cool set piece probably about midway through the movie that I actually liked quite a bit. That once I saw that, I was like, all right, things are kind of heating up, and then it's kind of back to just being boring. But everything just kind of feels the same. It's like she has to go somewhere in town to pick something up or do something, and she's greeted by some locals that give her the business, and then she goes home, finds out something new about her aunt, then
Something
goes back
creepy
into
happens.
town,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's
Rinse and
like
repeat, just over and over again. And I think my other big problem with this is that the townsfolk hate her so much. Like
Yeah.
They try, the local like store owner just tries to make up excuses as to why they can't deliver to her house over and over
Mhm.
again.
Mhm.
A little girl tells her that her mum told her not to talk to her because she's a ghost, and which I thought they were going to do something with that, but they never do. Like she's not dead or anything like that.
Oh,
Don't worry that that's building to a twist or something, because it's not.
yeah.
But
See,
my big problem though is that the movie, like, they hate her so much that there's like, it's not even just like, trepidation. Oh, she moved into
Mhm.
that house, so that's a bit worrying. Like, is she going to be like her
Mhm.
aunt? Let's treat this with kid gloves. No, no, no. They treat her with absolute just hostility from the second she walks in anywhere.
Yeah.
That I was convinced that it was going to build up to a revelation. Like, I needed to know exactly what the aunt did. Like, the aunt had to do
Right.
something
Yeah.
specific to this town to make them all feel this way, this strongly. And there's
Yeah.
never like, oh, she killed someone in town, or she kidnapped a bunch of children, or no, there's nothing. We never. It's just no. She was into Satanism, and that was kind of it. Like, okay,
Yeah. Or like at the very least, like maybe do something where it's like, they don't have to like, tell her to leave town or something, but like maybe if they're saying cryptic stuff like, well, you're not going to be like your aunt, right? Or like, oh, sure would be a shame if you followed in her footsteps or something, like, like do something like that. And then I think what they needed, which I guess maybe they kind of try to have, but I don't, it doesn't work the way they should. But you need to have that person in town that the character connects with, that can kind of clue them in and be like, oh, the reason why people are acting like this is because your aunt did blah blah blah. And then like, she does meet some people, but they never really have that like, revelation of being like,
no.
oh, this is
The one person, the one local who likes her is the teenager Luke, who wants to just boink her, and
which I don't know about you, but like I actually thought it was kind of a shock when I found out that he was supposed to be a teenager, because like I just assumed like he was like in his like 20s or something. Like,
yeah, I mean, shocking in the no more than like other teenagers, I guess, in movies. But I got he was supposed to be young though. I got he was at least in his early 20s, because he's working for his dad at his dad's store, and he just kind of had that vibe about him.
yeah, well, I just assumed that it was like a family run store or something, because I like, I thought he was gonna be the love interest, and I guess maybe in a
Oh
weird way you
no!
could say.
Like, my first thought was, why is he flirting with her? He's like half her age. I didn't understand it. It was
Oh,
weird to me.
yeah, I didn't get that at all. I thought that they
Because
were like
even before
similar.
this scene, his two friends in the car, like, they see her jogging one morning, and
Mhm.
as soon as they see her, they start standing up and like whistling and catcalling, and like, "Oh baby, you look so pretty. Do you want a ride?" And so it's. And
They were like trying to do catcalling, which like they were, but like it was like the tamest catcalling you ever heard. Like I think the big thing they said were like, "Do you want to ride?" or something. Like I was like, "All right, if you're trying to make
yeah,
these like teenage jerks, like make them jerks." Like
the catcalling was not up to Tim's standards. Is what we're getting from this.
I'm just saying, like if they're supposed to be like horny teens that are like, being like, "Ooh, come on, baby," but they're not. They're just like they just stand up and they're just like, "Woo, hey, you want to ride?" Like,
Which
okay,
just feels so random to me, especially since we don't get the sense that there's anyone else in this town. It's like there's no other women in the whole town. Because later
yeah,
on, they're talking to the Luke, who, against his father's wishes, goes to like deliver groceries to her the next day, and then accepts a job to fix up the house and fix the roof and stuff. And he comes over, he kind of he's all nervous, and she's kind of nice to him, and he goes back to his friends, and they're like, "Oh, so do you get any action up there? You're working on her?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, we made it out. It's going well." And I'm like, "But I don't like, they're talking about it as if they're talking about another girl in class. Not that
yeah,
would make it any less like sleazy or whatever, but
right.
it would fit what's going on. It feels weird. Like, it would be fine though if like that was kind of the point. Like if they were doing like an American Pie MILF thing where they're like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I'm going to try and have sex with an older woman." If that was the plot, that'd be fine. But that's not what they're
Mhm.
talking about. They're talking about as if no, you genuinely may have a chance here, and you
Yeah.
could be in a relationship with this woman. And in fact, later on, she actually like points out like kind of roughly what age he is, because she says something like when he tries to like actually ask her out, she's like, "Oh, that's sweet, but where were you when I was in like 10th grade or something like that?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Really? He's supposed to be in 10th grade? What?"
Well, yeah, I think that's like when I was like surprised. I was like, wait a minute, like yeah, again, I just assumed he was like, the shopkeeper's kid that was like, working at the store. I thought maybe he was like immature, but that was because he was like a country bumpkin or something, not
Yeah.
because he was a kid.
Let's just
I
say,
get-
if
I bet the
I
actor
was,
is like 10 years older than I probably.
if I was the cashier in a store selling alcohol, I would not be IDing this guy. Let's just put it that way.
Oh no, no, yeah, for sure.
He looked plenty old enough to drink. That's all I'm saying. But like, I didn't understand. Like, in no point does anyone ever address that she's older, except for her. She's the only one when he finally tries to like make a move that she's like, oh no, hey, like, you're too young for that, but you're not too young that we can't be friends. And he gets angry and smashes a vase, and then he apologizes and sort of calms himself down. And also, all that build up about his father, like not wanting him there, there's never any payoff to that. You never see his father again.
No, no.
So
Why would you ever need to see any character in this movie more than once?
yes, I mean, unless, yep, no, that's fair. That's fair. So yeah, so some of the characters are kind of weird, and not in like a fun, goofy way. That they're weird and they act because the script wants them to act this way. And like, if it was going to go down this point of her being tempted by men, and she's tempted by this mysterious new Tom guy, like maybe they can do something with a teenager, and the temptation of that maybe is a thing if they wanted to go down that route thematically. Like, would that be her sinning, and that would like set up like her on the path to Satanism, like her aunt or something? I don't know. Do something with it, but instead it's just it's like a subplot that has no purpose.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
It doesn't go anywhere really. Like, she just kind of shoots him down. He kind of accepts it, and that's
like
it really.
Yeah, like no one really feels like they have any like nuance, or that they're acting like real people would act, that are having feelings and dealing with the consequences of how they feel. Instead, it's like you said, like everyone just feels like an actor, where they're like, I'm gonna say my line, and then as soon as the line's done, they're like, all right, see ya. Like,
yeah, I'm not this character anymore.
Yeah.
I'm gone. Because like, even like the reverend, like, he comes over and he's like, hey, well, I see you in church. He's like, oh, I've not been to church since I was a little girl, and blah blah blah. And he makes some small talk, and he tries to, I hope I'll see you there, and he tries to talk her into it. And he's the one who tries to be nice more than anyone, even though he clearly knows more about this place and what happened. But he, like, I thought as more weird stuff happened, she would go to him and ask for help. And I mean, she does kind of do that at one point, but he just kind of like, nothing's happened here. I think you had a nightmare. And she's like, yeah, I think I'm going crazy again. Yeah, it's weird. And that's the other thing. They say that, like, we don't find out until later that she was actually, like, had a bit of a breakdown after her marriage. And it's just kind of brought up out of nowhere later on, and I'm like, oh, that'd have been interesting information to have earlier to maybe, build some suspense that maybe what she was seeing wasn't real.
Yeah.
Maybe build the idea that she's an unreliable perspective, and maybe that could, do something for us as the audience. But again, nothing's done with it.
My God, what an idea, having context for what happens in a movie.
And I'm not saying everything I just suggested should have been done. I'm saying pick one of them and actually do it.
This movie is just like, I hate to be so repetitive, but it's just so dull. But there's like, we've already just talked about a lot of different things you could have done to, like, again, maybe the stuff we say might have not made it like an amazing movie or anything, but could just add these little touches to make it more interesting, to make it feel like it has more life to it. But
yeah, I mean, I think ultimately, what we're suggesting, I don't think is groundbreaking. Some of these ideas we're suggesting are quite tropey as well. Like, we're thinking of them because that's how it's done in other movies. But the reason why it works in other movies, even when it's like a tired old like trope, is that it still functions the way like a story's supposed to function. That's kind of what tropes are. Is they're kind of a crutch if you can't think of a new and interesting way of doing something. And it's fine to criticize that, but it's better to have the trope than to have nothing.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Because then you're just sitting there with, like, things are happening, but who cares?
Yeah, I mean, we've said it a million times before, but any day of the week, I'd rather have, a crazy, bad, cheesy, over-the-top movie as opposed to just a middle-of-the-road, kind of boring, bland movie.
Yeah, no, I concur. It never goes super, because again, I thought it was setting up this whole like sexual repression and temptation, and it never really like does anything with it. She's dating this guy Tom. It goes where it goes, but there's never like, I don't know, like anything. There's never like, oh, maybe she feels guilty because she succumbed to temptation and that led to bad things. It never goes down a path of, oh no, maybe you're supposed to give it to temptation and maybe he'll be the one that helps you or anything like that. There's never like in either direction. There's no like, use for other than a very cheap twist that comes later on. Which, by the way, I mean, I'll give them credit. It wasn't the exact twist I thought it was going to be, because I thought of a much more interesting twist, and then I was annoyed by how simple and predictable the twist was. But earlier on, I had this other idea of where it was going to go, and I thought that, oh, this will all be something. And again, very tropey, the idea I had, but the actual twist that we got, I was like, this is just the most simple, straightforward, boring thing you could have possibly done with the ideas that you've presented to me.
I hope your idea is just something like really stupid, like the hearse was actually a truck or something like.
The hearse goes through the car wash and comes out. It's actually the Ghostbusters Ecto-1.
Oh, okay, that could be interesting. Now we're talking about a shared cinematic universe.
Yeah, yeah. And what was happening? She was hallucinating seeing the original like hearse before it was painted white with the logo and all that, and the extra doohickeys. And they're actually hunting a ghost. They're trying to help her, but she's like running from them. She's scared because she thinks it's an evil hearse, but it's actually the Ghostbusters coming to save her.
Yeah, and then they realize that her aunt ends up being Slimer. It's like, yeah, my aunt always liked to just eat a lot of hot dogs. Like, wait a minute.
So I guess we'll give the spoiler warning. I don't think I've got much else to say without spoilers.
Oh, you want to talk about Ghostbusters more?
Oh, I'd love to talk about Ghostbusters more. Can we stretch that to count as a horror movie for Screams for maybe next October or something? I don't know.
I feel like if I brought it up, you'd veto it. Every time I mention something that's not like strictly like, nope.
I feel like we opened a door when we did Gremlins, because Gremlins is very borderline.
Yeah, but I mean, who cares? It's our show, and technically it's my show. But
what? What?
I own 51% of the stock, so legally, I own the majority shareholdings.
No, you own 51 out of 103% of the stock.
Oh. Oh, math might be off of that. I'll have to check with the bookkeeper.
I am the bookkeeper.
No, all right. Now this is my nightmare.
Joe's funny actually. We started a dedicated Streams After Midnight Twitter this week. Now a lot of the episodes are pre-recorded, so a lot of them will go out after this that don't mention that. But we have an @Screams Midnight. That's the handle, @Screams Midnight. It'll be in the description below. You can click on it. To go find it @Screams Midnight, just for horror ramblings. But I went out of my way to make sure the first ever tweet coming from this Twitter was about Tim liking the boy. I couldn't resist. It made sense to me. It made sense.
No, that's good. You want to get people on board right away. Have a lot of people be like, "Oh, okay, so these people like good movies. We'll follow them."
It's just a specific Twitter, just so that not only just to specifically promote the show, but also to just actually get involved in horror discussions and horror news and things like that. We don't really want to do that with the Mail Fuzz TV Twitter because it's a blanket for everything. It's an umbrella for all the different shows. So
it's just a cheap way for you to get out some of your Halloween fan fiction.
I don't have my own Twitter for that. To be fair, Tim, that's not. In fact, Tim, I can set it up so you can post on it as well if you like. We could do that. Are we ready for that next step in our relationship where we've got a shared Twitter account? I don't know.
Yeah, I think I might be washing my hair that night.
The new wife will be really upset. You've got a joint Twitter account with someone else? What?
How could you?
Not that married couples have shared Twitter accounts. That's not really a thing.
I guarantee you that some there probably are some couples that have like Mr. and Mrs. blah blah blah. I guess one of the things like we had to do, which I guess is a new thing people do now, which is kind of like, Jesus, really? Is like you have to come up with like a hashtag for your wedding. Like
what? You
like,
have to. You weren't allowed to say no. You had to do it.
You don't have to, but a lot of people are doing it. So I guess because you have so many guests and if people are posting on whatever social media, it's a way to kind of look up the stuff from this event. But it's just like one of those things when you're thinking about it, you're like, do I really have to do this?
So hashtag Gautreaux, right? That's what you picked.
Gautreaux. I know that means something else.
Can't fool Tim. What am I kidding? I fool Tim all the time. Okay, even a broken clock,
Well,
gets it right twice a day.
yeah, keep saying that to yourself.
Or once a day, depending on how the if it's digital. If it's digital, it's just the once a day.
All right. Good, we had that clarification.
I'm just saying, just before anyone picks me up on that. Anyway, spoilers. We're going to spoilers. Okay, I was promoting the new Twitter, yes, and then we're going to spoilers. That's what we're doing. At Screams Midnight, that's the Twitter handle. At Screams After Midnight is too long. They wouldn't let me pick that. So, at Screams Midnight.
Mm.
And Midnight Screams was already taken. I don't know what dickhead already had that, but that was already taken. So, just at Screams Midnight is the thing. So, spoilers. So early on, I thought the obvious thing this was going is that everyone was in this, right? It was going to be like one of those, everyone in the town's in the cult type
Oh
things.
yeah.
I was totally getting those vibes like early on, and
Oh,
then
I agree with that. Yeah.
and it turned out not to be that at all. It turned out that the mysterious Satanist in the journal that seduced her aunt and turned her into a Satanist, it just happens to be this Tom guy who's flirting with her. He's immortal
Yeah.
because he's a Satanist.
Yeah. That he they don't really like explain like too much. Like, was he supposed to be like Satan himself, or just like some?
Oh no, just
like,
just a
demon guy?
worshipper, just a Satanist.
All right.
He's a person that worships Satan and has been given immortality for.
Driving a hearse.
Well, that's the thing. Like, the driver of the hearse looks like Alfred Pennyworth, right? Like an evil version of Alfred, and he like eventually. The one interesting scene I thought in the entire movie was when he kept appearing in the house, like everywhere she went in the house. Like she lay down on the bed, and he was just lying down next to her, looking really stoic, and he kept appearing wherever she ran in the house. That was a kind of okay scene, right? Later on, all it really does is that you see him driving the hearse, like as in Tom, and it like fades to the actual hearse driver we've been seeing all movie, and then fades back to Tom, just to show us that it's been him all along. But there's never actually any kind of okay, why a hearse? Why have this? I mean, obviously he doesn't really know who it's him just yet, but like why be tormenting her? I think it was supposed to be like she had a dream sequence where it was like, oh, this is the hearse that took her body to whatever, and it crashed and her body went missing, and there was like that. But that doesn't explain to me why this hearse is this focal point for all this torment that she's going through, and why Tom even feels the need to torment her in the first place if his whole plan is just to seduce her into like accepting Satan and then having her join up.
Yeah, so, like I like and I think the scene you're kind of talking about, I think was the scene that I liked. It was about like halfway through where she actually, she's like running away from the hearse, and then she actually gets like pulled inside and then is taken to like this demonic church.
Well, actually, just to clarify, she doesn't get pulled inside as so much as she's standing at the back of the hearse when it's open, and she looks up at the window, and every so often in the movie we see her aunt, like a young version of her aunt, like sort of as a ghost almost staring out the window. And it's mostly she's like entranced by watching her, and the door just shuts on her, and she just happens to be. It's like she's like just hovered in there while she's been in a trance, and then once she's inside the hearse, she starts like banging and screaming because she realizes she's inside it.
Yeah, see, like what I don't know why I was kind of thinking this, but like for some reason I was thinking like, oh man, like it'd be really cool if like the curse or the curse of the hearse, like I thought it'd be cool if the hearse itself was like a demonic entity, and then like the back of it was almost like a doorway into like a hell dimension or something. So I thought that'd be cool if it was like chasing people down and trying to suck it.
So the problem with this is, this sounds interesting, and this movie had no interest in doing anything interesting.
Yeah, they must have they probably rented the hearse for like half a day, and they were just like, oh shit, like, oh no, we can't do that scene, But also like the other thing too is like I feel like the fact that it sucks because she's new in this town where everyone hates her, and she's the only one who's like the focal point of this like hearse and everything. So originally, like before the movie even started, I assumed it was going to be a movie where like this demonic hearse is like mowing people down, and there's going to be a body count, and like it just kind of
Either that or like a sort of long chase kind of thing, where this hearse is like chasing
yeah,
someone down the highway or something. It's interesting because it's a hearse.
yeah.
And because
But unfortunately,
I can already envision that movie in my head. Like the person who's being chased, like the twist at the end would be that they're actually like this is all in their head. They're dying and they're refusing to let go, and the hearse is coming after them because they're supposed to be letting go
oh,
and
okay.
dying. And like, as
Oh,
death's
yeah.
chasing them kind of thing. Like I was like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bit cliched and like obvious, but like I'm like, I can see that movie in my head.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah, that'd be more interesting. But yeah, unfortunately, just the since we are just with her, and like she doesn't have like friends or anything. There's no like potential body count or anything for this movie. Like so,
Which wouldn't be a problem if the story was interesting. Like, I mean,
true. Yeah. Yeah.
like my biggest problem with it, outside of being dull and outside of the hearse not being that interesting, is that it ultimately just sums up to being a typical person comes to town, she's new, everyone is really weird towards her, and there's a build up to what's really going on. But on top of that, just feeling a bit tired, the actual thing that's going on is just not that exciting.
Yeah. And then it doesn't help that like pretty much every facet of the movie is dull. Like not just like the story wise, it's like, all right, yeah, all the actors are pretty bland. Like the music isn't that interesting. Like it's pretty much exactly what you would expect of like a, just kind of a random middle of the road, like 1980 kind of drama horror movie
Yeah, I wouldn't
would
say even
be. Like
1980. I think this is kind of a leftover. This feels like a
it
70s.
feels 70s.
Yeah, it feels
Yeah.
like a 70s made movie to me, which technically is true because it probably got made in 79 and then came out in 80.
Yeah.
But it's not like there's
But
a
yeah,
hard
like,
cut off though. It's not like all of a sudden one year they all switch to the 80s style. So obviously there's a sort of blurry period of transition.
are you one of those annoying people that is like, well, technically 1980 is 1970s because it's like, you go 1 through 10 or whatever.
Oh no. 80 to 89 is the 80s.
I hate that.
The 90s is the start of the 90s. It's really that simple. Come on, guys. Next year is the last year of this decade, which is actually really exciting, Tim, because it means that at the end of the year next year, not only will we be doing our top 10 of the year, we'll be doing like a big countdown of the decade.
Wow.
That's happening.
I'm sorry. I was just trying to think of like the movies we had over the decade. I'm just stuff is shooting out at me like Truth or Dare. Like,
What? Why is that the thing you think of first? Jesus Christ.
Wish Upon, Bye Bye Man. Like,
The Boy.
Oh, okay. So it's not all bad.
No, that belongs in the list with those. Just to be that clear.
No.
But we got
No
follows,
way.
Tim. We got The Witch. We got we got a bunch of stuff.
I guess.
Get out.
You get out.
You get out. Well, you get out. No, you get out. Okay. So I haven't even thought of that until now, but yeah, we can do like a big decade, probably a top 50 in the next year.
Oh God.
Yeah, you get excited, people. That's coming at the end of next year, or probably start of 2020. Actually, now that I think about it, I don't know, end of next year, or start of 2020. But that's going to happen. It's just fun. That's good fun.
Good, clean fun.
But hey, so what we talking about? Oh yeah, the Hearse. That's the boring movie. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I want to add to it more than what we already said. The pacing is very lax. Everything feels very kind of because, like we say, it feels like it's got that 70s drama horror vibe. So it's going for that slow. She settles in. There's not a whole lot of suspense though. It definitely feels like one of those movies that feels very fragmented. Where here's the drama scenes where it's just kind of awkward because the town people don't like her and she's trying to achieve something. And then you've got the scenes where she's reading the diary, and that's all kind of like, ooh, mysterious because she's reading the diary and it's kind of romantic. And then there's scenes of like the actual horror and suspense where almost immediately the music just switches. And that's not necessarily that weird in the grand scheme of things, but it does feel very fragmented where it does just kind of feel like, and I think the reason for this is what you were getting at earlier, is that it doesn't feel like she reacts in a natural way that builds throughout the movie. It feels like every time a horror thing happens, she goes back to being normal afterwards, which is fine early on in the movie. Because at the start of a horror movie, if creepy stuff's happening, you'll have them kind of shrug it off and go, oh, well, that was just me imagining something or weird. But as the movie goes on, the characters are supposed to get a bit more, frazzled and worried about what's happening. This doesn't happen in this until very nearly the end.
Like she never really feels like proactive. Like it's not like you know, like sometimes we make fun of the scenes where like the person is like doing research and they just like, you know, like look at a newspaper that just happens to have like some big revelation, or go online. Obviously internet wasn't, you know, around back then, but like but there was nothing like that. Like, you know, there wasn't really anything about her being like, oh,
I would
I
never
need to
ask
figure
for
out.
that because I'm so sick to death of that scene.
Yeah.
But like,
But still, like
there's other,
something with her being
yeah,
proactive and
there's
trying to figure stuff out. Like, I guess she reads a diary or whatever, but
yeah.
like,
But yeah, but that's got nothing to do with the mysterious things though. She's reading that out of
true,
curiosity. And it's just about the steamy romance of Satanism.
yeah.
You know, it like I think proactive is a good word. She's never proactive in terms of dealing with what's going on because she never considers it a real threat outside of one or two moments. You know, the big one before the ending is when she runs out the house screaming when the guy's in there, and she ends up sleeping in a car. And the Reverend goes the next day, and he's like, "No, it was just a nightmare. You've had a scary dream," and she kind of just accepts it and moves on. And it's just weird. It doesn't escalate the way it should, and because of that, we don't like move forward in the story that much. It doesn't feel like it anyway. It feels like we're just kind of going back to square one constantly, and then you get to the end and nothing really matters.
Yeah. Also, like, it's kind of weird. Like, the Reverend was kind of like dickish to her and stuff too, and it's like, why, like, you know, wouldn't you want to be like, you know, like, even if you did think she was in league with Satan or something, wouldn't you want to like try to help her, convert her, or like, I don't know, something?
Yeah. And he does kind of show up to try to help. He doesn't really accomplish much though in the grand scheme of things.
She has like him and like Luke come and try to help her, but they're not. They don't really.
Yeah,
last very long.
Luke gets killed, and it's actually one of the shittiest deaths ever because it does the freeze frame as he screams, and then that's it. Now, I have no problem with that if it's the end of your opening scene and you're cutting to the title, or it's the end of the movie as a whole and that's your final little thing and it cuts to the credits. This was weird though, because this was like the first big kill. It was like the start of Act 3, and he turned around, screamed, it freeze framed, and then it just cut to the next scene. It was so strange. I've never seen a movie do that and just cut to the next scene. It was weird.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt absolutely nothing like, you know, for this death. Like,
No.
it's I think they probably want you to have some type of emotional reaction, but this was just like so like, okay, I guess he's gone.
I mean, this is the first time we see him, I think, really after the letdown scene where she tells him that it can't happen, and that's pretty much it.
He didn't even like. I guess maybe he was like a main character, but he didn't really feel like it. Like he was in like maybe what, like 3 scenes.
I think he was in more than that, but it was always just the same thing. He was trying to flirt with her, or he was with his friends talking about trying to get some, and you know there was some funny stuff where he like, it's like, oh, you get out with that Tom again tonight, and she's like, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like, damn it! And he smashes the vase. You know, there was almost. It was the closest to being funny, I think. Not in a good way, but just it was the closest to being funny out of any of the characters. Then the other big death, I guess, was the real estate guy who was mad because the aunt promised him the house. Apparently,
I completely forgot about this guy.
yeah, he gets angry at some point and throws up and like smashes her window, and she thinks it's a spooky thing again, but it's not. It's actually just him smashing the window. But then he gets killed, and the movie just kind of ends with her running away from Tom, and he ends up being in the house when it goes up in flames, and we just end with the house on fire, and it's just like, whatever, we're done.
This is so much more house focused than Hearse focused, which is a real shame.
Yeah, if you're going to sum up the problem with this movie in a sentence, it's more house focused than the Hearse focused, and that's the problem.
You know what? This always happens to us when we like do a theme vote, because we'll always be like, oh, like we have this theme, so we want to watch this type of movie, and then I feel like when we watch it, we're like, oh, it wasn't that type of movie.
Yeah, and to be fair to our patrons who voted, I don't think like any of them knew this movie either. I think this was just sounds cool because typically I expect the winner to be the one that everyone's heard of. I expected Christine or maybe Duel to win out of the options, right? And then Joyride / Roadkill at a push.
Yeah. Wait, was the car one of the options? No.
Oh, I think the car was. Maybe that was there instead of Duel. Maybe I'm just misremembering what was there.
Oh, yeah.
But like, I expect one of the ones that's known, but then every so often they'll pick the weird one. They'll pick the one that no one's heard of before, and they go, "Oh, that sounds interesting." And And it's
And
just kind of
sometimes I
funny.
like that too, because like
Oh,
I get
sure.
excited where I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like I don't know anything about this one, so this could actually be pretty good. But
But in this occasion, it turned out to not be as car focused as we
yeah,
thought, based on the title and what the internet told us, which is a shame. But I mean, that wouldn't necessarily make it a bad movie. It's a bad movie or a mediocre
yeah.
movie all on its own for other reasons.
I immediately had to put Maximum Overdrive in my DVD player after this movie just to just to be like, oh, give me some good car horror going on.
No, Mad Max Fury Road. That's what I put in right after. Just like give me some cars.
Oh, what a lovely, lovely movie.
Let me hear some engines. Let me hear some engines going. But no. So I mean that's the Hearse. Next month's vote. The vote right now on Patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. If you're a $5 patron or you're thinking about going over and being a patron, is dog themed.
Mhm.
So you have Cujo, you have Man's Best Friend, you have Devil Dog, The Hound of Hell. I think the full title of that one is, and then The Breed are the four movies up for option. So
Yeah.
people are voting away on those right now. So
Yeah.
you can go.
I don't want to sway any votes, but I do believe in Man's Best Friend, the dog does pee acid. So just throwing that out there.
And Lance Henriksen's in that one, which is also
Yeah.
worth mentioning.
I
But we'll
haven't
see.
seen it in a long time, but I remember liking it very much as a
Oh,
child.
the only one out of these four I've seen is Cujo. I have never seen the other three.
I've seen 2 out of the 4. I've seen Cujo and Man's Best Friend.
Interesting, interesting.
What's I love I don't know if you've seen the it was the anniversary of Cujo recently. I forget what, maybe 30th probably.
Sounds right. Yeah.
And um they're like showing all these behind the scenes photos, and it's just really funny. They have like the guy like in a Cujo suit, like and that is one photo. It was a dog that was like dressed up like Cujo or something, where it's like they got like another dog to dress up like a different type of dog. But
Just get the right breed of dog, I guess,
yeah.
is my advice at that point. I don't know.
I would say that's actually, those might be some of my favorite like all time behind the scenes photos. Just if you just look up like Cujo behind the scenes, there's a lot of funny stuff there.
All right, okay, noted, noted. We have to rate the Hearse though before we do the rest of the outro and stuff and
Oh, okay.
whatever we're going to end this crazy episode with. So, what are you giving the Hearse?
Uh, I'm gonna give it a 4. I mean, it's pretty low, but like, I can't really think of too many positives. Like, there's nothing offensively bad in
Yeah.
it. I would say, other than just like, being boring. But I
No,
don't
I
know.
mean,
Like, so
I actually agree with that number. I think four's perfect. I think it's really mediocre, but it's not quite average enough to give it a 5. So I think
yeah,
because it's not too. I mean, four's not too harsh. It's not like complete garbage by any means, but it's just
yeah.
it's a mediocre bad movie, and that's boring and dull. It is the definition of a 4 out of 10
Yeah.
for me. So,
It's
but
just
that's that.
yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously, I've mentioned Patreon a bit, but I really, to emphasize, if you want to support the channel and the show and streams after midnight and everything we do here, go to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and you can support us for as little as $1 and feel nice, warm, and fuzzy inside. If you can't do that, though, don't feel too bad. You can, of course, support us by watching ads on YouTube, turn off your ad block, or like and subscribe and comment and all that other stuff. All of it helps, and we do appreciate it loads. Get us on Twitter at Screams Midnight, as previously mentioned. It's dedicated streams after midnight Twitter. Super exciting. There's like 6 followers right now, so go do that.
Put the Twitter handle under the logo, so everyone gets their own little caption thing.
Wait, is this because all the other shows have the Twitter come up at the bottom? You feel left out? Is that what you said?
Well, on our screens, how we have our Twitter handles under our names. So you gotta do it for the. I feel like the Screams logo is like the third member. Like he should get
Okay.
his.
I thought you were being jealous because most of the other shows now that we do have the Twitter and the Patreon at the bottom, sort of alternating. And the only reason why Screams doesn't have that is because the logo is like perfectly sized and there's no room underneath it. I didn't want to cover it up, so
Yeah.
I need to do one where it pops up at the side or something like that.
Yeah. I would have to actually watch any of the other shows to be jealous of that.
I'm sure you've guested on something where you've seen it.
Oh, of course. I love every show on the channel. I watch them religiously. It's my first thing I do when I wake up and last thing I do when I go to bed.
Jeez. Well, if Tim's done insulting all of the other content in the channel that doesn't include him, we can say our goodbyes for this episode. Of course, I've been putting up old episodes from the old channel as archive episodes once per week as well.
Special editions.
Special editions, yes. Director's cuts. I mean, I joke, but I have actually put the new overlay over the top of them, so they look a bit more like the modern episodes. So they actually are remastered Screams After Midnight.
Is there a tier where we could do commentaries on old episodes?
Commentaries on old episodes. Well, this is when me and Tim reviewed The Boy. Tensions were high in this one. Do you remember this, Tim? Oh yeah, I remember that, Peter.
Oh yeah, one of us was really smart and opinionated, and really just came with their A game.
I feel like we could do this as a joke once. I don't think we could actually do a commentary track for each review.
True.
Because ultimately, these are kind of commentary tracks in and of themselves.
Yeah. And it would just be like so confusing because like any second we stop talking, you would hear us talking.
Yeah,
you're like very like.
Oh dear. No. But hey, so yeah. By all means, obviously, one thing I've not mentioned actually with Patreon is the Crypt. You can submit movies to a thing called the Crypt, which is a list of movies that we'll pick from time to time. Everyone gets to see the list. You can get the link to that in the description, but patrons get to submit movies to it. So so thank you very much for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies. We'll be back next time with something else.
You're exciting.
Yeah. Probably, I think I know what it's going to be, but I mean, I like to leave room open because we're getting very ahead in recordings right now because we're banking episodes for October more than anything. So look forward to the October-thon, which is coming up in just a couple months now. We're getting close.
Yeah, 1 month.
A month and a half.
All right.
All right. So that's the show. Thank you very much. It's been Screams After Midnight. We talk about horror movies. Thank you once again. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.